Hello and welcome to Tech24, the show that cuts through the geek speak to keep you connected with the digital world. I'm Rebecca Bowring. Coming up in the programme, you can't make 600 million friends without picking up a few enemies. Facebook seems unable to keep out of the headlines at the moment. Now it's facing a fresh court battle. We'll update your news feed with the latest goings-on at the social network. Non-profit newsroom ProPublica scoops a second Pulitzer Prize, and Huffington Post bloggers launch a crusade over pay. How should online writing be rewarded? We'll take a look in our Tech News Roundup. And we'll have our own little photo shoot here in the Tech24 studio. Our internet editor Erik Olander will be testing out Nikon's latest digital camera. Get ready for some swivel screen action with the D5100. But first this week, we head to Palo Alto. You may not realise, but it's actually home to the world's third largest nation, cyber nation that is, and it's called Facebook. Now, with more than 600 million members, the social network comes only after China and India in terms of population. It's available in a whopping 70 languages. And contrary to some expectations, over two-thirds of members live outside the United States. So what does the average user look like? Well, he or she is 25, has 130 friends and spends around 700 minutes per month on the site. Erik Olander, our internet editor, is with me in the studio to illuminate this a little bit more. Erik, who exactly are the Facebook population?
The statistics are absolutely astounding. Now, we've talked a little bit about some of the stats that you gave and some of the numbers. Let me give you a couple more. Top 5 countries on Facebook. This may actually surprise you. United States with 157 million users. No surprise there. Number 2, Indonesia, 35 million users. The UK coming in at 30 million users. Turkey with 27 million users, and number 5 is India, 23 million users. So the growth in Facebook is not in the West. It's happening in developing countries.
What about the growth rate globally? Where's that concentrated?
Well, the growth rate, and this is what's so interesting, is you look in Africa in particular, they've grown just in the past 6 months 50% to 25 million users, and in Asia it's gone 43% in growth to 146 million users. Asia now becoming the second largest population on Facebook.
It looks like Facebook is aiming for world domination, but there is a hole there in Asia, a China-shaped hole.
That's right. China is the big gap. So when we talk about Asia, that's Asia ex-China. So China right now has very tight controls on social networking sites. Now, there are social networking sites in China, Zhenren being the number one site there. It's just not Facebook. The Great Firewall and the Chinese government controls restrict that. Now, there have been reports, and they are just reports. It's very important to emphasize this, that Baidu, which is the number one search engine in China, and Facebook have been in talks to create a separate type of social networking site. So it's not going to be Facebook in China, but it'll be another social networking site. But it's really important to emphasize that these are very preliminary reports.
But Mark Zuckerberg has been spotted over there. Now, the figures we've been talking about are only part of the Facebook story. It's a story that contains, in some ways, truth that is stranger than fiction. And the social networking film, in fact, showed a lot of this story, but it's developing all the time. The saga over Facebook's paternity. Where are we with that?
Well, we just came off of a lawsuit with the Winklevoss twins, if you remember from the movie. They were those good-looking Harvard guys who were the crew. They used to row, and they've been scorned by Facebook time after time again, claiming that they, in fact, are the true fathers, as you would say, of Facebook. They came up with the original idea. That was just settled out in court, that they are no longer able to claim credit for creating Facebook. Now there's another person who's been in the news for about a year, and he's claiming that he owes 50% of Facebook. Now this is a claim that's right now, it's very disputed. He brings not so much credibility to the case, in part because he's had his problems with fraud, and that's been a big part of this, is that we're judging him and not the case. The case is still in dispute. It's possibly going to go to court, and at the end of the day, really, in my opinion, what's going to end up happening is just what are they going to settle for. But it's hard to imagine that Facebook would get 50% to an outsider. The
Winklevoss brothers, of course, told to accept their $65 million settlement, which isn't too bad after all. Let's turn briefly to the political role of Facebook. Barack Obama knows more than anybody about its potential. He launched a forum to answer users' questions. He's also broadcasting a live town hall speech on that site.
Well, with that number of people, we've talked 157 million Americans on one destination. Now, remember what makes Facebook so special. It's not a website. It's a place that people go 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times a day. So Barack Obama is trying to tap into this very large active population. Very important to note, not just Barack Obama. President Sarkozy in France here has a Facebook strategy, and most leading politicians around the world now are turning to Facebook as a way to raise money and awareness of their candidacy.
So if you want to win votes, turn to Facebook. Thanks for that, Eric. Now we're going to move on to some internet journalism, which really stepped up to the plate this week. ProPublica bagged itself a Pulitzer Prize, and the journalists, the bloggers at the Huffington Post have risen up against their editors calling for cash for their articles. We'll have a look in our news wrap.
Independent news site ProPublica.org has landed itself a second Pulitzer Prize, thanks to Jesse Eisinger and Jack Bernstein's investigative journalism exposing greed on Wall Street. That got them the first award given for a web-only series, a high accolade that could help the non-profit newsroom finance future reporting. Any work merits a salary. Bloggers from the Huffington Post and France's Rue 89 news websites want cash for their articles. The pay would be worked out according to the traffic they bring to the site. One journo's launched a lawsuit against HuffPo and its owner AOL. He's demanding at least $105 million for unpaid bloggers, a third of what the American media firm paid for Arianna Huffington's site in February. Brand new in the job, and Larry Page is already bugging investors. Google's tech visionary is apparently flushing greenbacks down the drain. The California web giant's expenses leapt 54% in the first quarter of 2011. That spooked Wall Street, wiping $15 billion off Google's value. Page prefers long-term strategy. Investors want results yesterday.
It's time now for our gadget segment, and Eric's been snapping away paparazzi style with his new toy. It's the Nikon D5100, an SLR camera that also shoots HD video. Let's take a look at a clip filmed by some students in the French city of Nantes. So it shoots beautiful films. But what about the pictures, Eric?
Well, the pictures, as you just saw in that video, are spectacular in this camera. This is a camera really designed for the advanced beginner who wants to graduate up from the point and shoot. So let's talk a little bit about what this has that the point and shoot doesn't have. Speed is the most important one. So when you take a picture with a small camera like this, sometimes it's 1 to 2, sometimes 3 seconds in between shots. That can be difficult when you've got fast-moving action. This has a beautiful engine in it, so it just clicks away like that paparazzi, click, click, click. The other key thing that's here is colors. When you have a lens like this, and you see how small these lenses are, you get much better colors, much better focus, and a much better quality image. Finally, the most important thing, that beautiful video you saw, 1080p. That's the highest resolution video, high definition video. Can't do that in a small point and shoot.
A cracking piece of kit, but it does cost a fair bit. €700 for the body, then 100 for the lens, 150 for the mic. Is it worth all of that?
Well, for €100 you can get this, and you get a lesser quality picture. For that much more money, you get what you pay for, actually, in this life. And so it's actually worth it if you want to graduate up. Also, if you want to have controls over the images you're taking, this will give you that, but you do get a lot more for your money.
So it could be the making of some new photographers out there.
Absolutely.
Thank you for your expertise, Eric Orlando. That brings us to the end of this edition of Tech24. Thanks to you for watching. Don't forget to go to our website where you can, of course, catch this show again. And you can follow us on Facebook /Tech24. It's there in English and French. And also on Twitter @TechF24. We leave you now with our clip of the week, or in fact, good deed of the month. Ashton Kutcher and Demi Moore, the star couple who like nothing better than to tweet, well, they're getting their online community mobilised in the fight against prostitution. They have set up a foundation, the Demi and Ashton Foundation, or DNA, to raise awareness of sex slavery. And they've launched a campaign told through a humorous video clip. It's called Real Men Do Not Buy Girls. It even features a little cameo there from Twitter founder Jack Dorsey, held up as a shining example of what it is to be a real man. Stay tuned. We'll see you next week here on Tech24.
Real men do their own laundry. Real men don't buy girls.
Jack Dorsey is a real man. Are you?